Good evening, Michael, and thank you for joining us today. You used to live in Hangzhou, correct?
That's correct. I did used to live in Hangzhou. I was there for a year in 2015, actually.
Okay, so can you please tell us what did you do in Hangzhou, and just give us a little description and introduction about you.
Sure. So I used to live in Hangzhou in 2015. At that time, I was studying at Zhejiang University, studying Chinese language, and then I did a Chinese economics course as well. And that was part of my degree in Australia at the Australian National University, where I studied Asia Pacific Studies as one bachelor and commerce as another bachelor. And as part of that Asia Pacific Studies program, I majored in Chinese language. And thankfully for me, my university offered me a one-year exchange program at Zhejiang University. And I can tell you, I had a great time there. It was a really fun time in my life. So, I had to come back to Australia after that to finish my degree. But for that time being, it was really beneficial for my Chinese language learning.
Okay, great. Wow. So I know that during your time in China, you learned a lot about Chinese culture, and you are a really big part of the of the Hangzhou life, right?
Sure, you can say that.
Yeah. So Michael, can you please tell us, how has the coronavirus affected you and your family in your country? And your country is Australia, correct? Right?
Yes, it is Australia. So I currently live in Sydney at the moment. I was born and raised in Sydney. Both my parents were also born and raised in Sydney. And, for the past 29 years, Australia's had unimpeded economic growth. We haven't had a recession since the early 1990s. So coronavirus is going to have a big impact on us. This will be the first time in 29 years that Australia goes through an economic recession. We even avoided it in that 2008, 2009 period when most of the Western world went through a recession. So recently the government's introduced lockdown measures so that you can't leave your house unless it's for a number of reasons. One is you can leave the house to go to the doctor. Two, you can go to the house if you need to go shopping. So, obviously doing the groceries, going to the pharmacy. There are some retail shops open, but if you do want to leave the house, you have to maintain social distancing. So that involves staying 1.5 meters away from other people, and you can't meet up with more than one other person. So if I want to go, shopping with two other friends, it's not permitted. It can only be one other friend.
Okay.
The only other reason you can leave the house is because of exercise. So fortunately for me, I've still been able to play golf every weekend, which is one of my favorite hobbies. And a few of my other friends also like to play golf. So that part of my life hasn't been affected. But for the past 5 weeks, I've been working from home. Most companies are now mandating that people work from home, and with only the true essential staff going into the office.
Right.
So yeah, it's had a massive impact. I'm not used to working from home. The gyms are closed, so I can't go to the gym.
Right.
I can't go to the bars. I can't go out to restaurants. You can only get takeaway. So not only has there been a broader economic hit, but there's been a hit on my personal life and for my family as well. So my mum works for Virgin Airlines, and they've stood down the vast majority of their staff. So they currently aren't getting paid by the company at the moment. Fortunately, though, the government's introduced a JobKeeper program whereby they pay 1,500 Australian dollars a fortnight to employers in order to keep employees on the payroll. So my mum qualifies for that, which is very fortunate. On the other hand, my dad, who's a doctor, will be working in the intensive care unit during this coronavirus.
Your is actually on the front lines of this coronavirus, situation. So, I might want to, on behalf of the world, thank your father for, being there and, risking his life while everyone else is, trying to be safe. So really, thanks to your father.
Sure. Thanks for that, Ronnie. And
Sure.
yeah, the thing with that is, even with all the protective gear, there's still been a lot of doctors and nurses that still contract the virus anyway. So it just shows that even if you're wearing a mask, even if you're wearing all the protective gear and you're wearing the gloves, there's still a chance you can get the coronavirus. So it's quite, worrying for our, medical staff on the front line.
Okay. So, you know, I notice that right now it is Saturday night. It's Saturday night in Australia too, right? So with this
It's
lockdown,
Saturday night.
right? So with this lockdown, how have you been keeping yourself busy during the weekends? Like, do you have friends over, or do you plan on visiting friends, or can you share with us a little glimpse into your social life?
Sure. Social life is not as abundant and fruitful as it was before the virus,
Right.
because we're not actually allowed to just go to friends' houses. That's under the government guidelines. That's not permitted. You can only visit your friend's house if it's for necessary care, like they're feeling sick and you deliver them medicine. There is an exception for a partner, but otherwise you can't just visit your friends to go have beer. So my Friday and Saturday nights have been relatively alcohol free,
Well,
and
that's probably good, right?
it's actually really good for my health, and it's good for my wallet as well. But I guess it's, you know, that social interaction that you miss during these times. So it's been comprised of more watching movies, watching TV shows, you know, talking to friends on WeChat, talking to friends on, you know, all sorts of social media. So
Okay. So,
yeah.
just one thing. So in Australia right now, as you go out, you know, during your, you know, golf outings, and as you go to work from time to time, do you get this sense of urgency that we are in the midst of a pandemic, or not really so much?
It's interesting you ask. I think a lot of people are still yet to fully recognize, you know, that we are in lockdown. You know, especially in the very early stages, you see a lot of people still going to the beach.
Right.
You see a lot of people disobeying the social distancing rules simply because this is so foreign to them. They're not used to these sort of restrictions. So I think they're finding it hard to really grasp what's going on. However, I think as the weeks do progress, people are realizing, you know, if they don't do their part, this virus could spread even further. So thankfully, the vast majority of Australians are sticking by the rules. And as you can see from the results, we've actually suppressed the virus quite well. We haven't eradicated it, but the progress made so far has been really, really positive.
Yeah, and I think that Australia is one of the civilized and you know, Western countries that have really been able to contain this virus to a certain extent. So I really want to applaud the you know, Australian people for being, you know, vigilant. And one last question: do you have any advice for your fellow countrymen or anyone else in the world in regards to this virus? Like, how would you advise them on how they can live during
Sure.
difficult times?
Well, I mean, look, it's easy to feel down during these periods. It's very easy to feel lonely and isolated. My advice would be keep your regular routine. Even if you're not working at the moment, try and have a schedule or at least some sort of goal you want to achieve that day. Now, that could be going for a run if that option's available to you. It could be doing some weights around the house. It could be, you know, starting a new book. You know, I think you need routine, and you still need to set weekly or, you know, daily goals to keep yourself occupied. You know, talk to your friends and family more often. Message them on WeChat. You know, give them a call. Ask how they're going. Make sure you keep that regular contact so you know that you're not the only person that's going through this. Everyone's in this together. That would be some of the advice I'd give. And you know, keep hope as well. This isn't going to last forever. It will be over at some point. So, you know, don't be too dismayed. Just try and stay positive.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think it's really important what you said, that at this time, during this point, we should try to keep a routine and try to keep busy, right? And I think one
Sure.
unintended benefits of this virus is that it's actually caused people who otherwise would not be in contact to actually talk to each other, right? So I think that's
Sure.
a pretty cool thing. Okay, Michael. So
Sure.
now it's Saturday night, and I'm sure you probably have some plans. Do you have any plans tonight?
Ronnie, I don't really have any plans, to be honest with you. I'm just going to be relaxing at home, and you know what? The good news is it's going to be good for my health, and then I'm going to look forward to golf tomorrow. So
Okay,
that's it for me.
well, Michael, tomorrow night, as you know, this show is on at 8 p.m. on Beijing time. So tomorrow, after your round of golf, which I hope you win, if you have time at night, I certainly do hope that you can tune in and you know, talk to us all live in person.
Sure, great. I'll be there, Ronnie. Looking forward to it. Thanks for getting me on your show.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I you know, really appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good night.
No worries.
Okay,
See you, Ronnie.
all right, bye bye.